Time Bandit group, and I'm really excited to have Angeline here today to share with us her tips and tricks and stresses as being a student. But first, I just want to mention if you go to timebandit.io, our new website is live, and you can find in the blog section a blog about student stress if you want to read further after this session. And you can also follow us on social. All of our social handles are there, and you can just connect up. So please do go check out timebandit.io. Angeline, welcome to the show. Really excited to have you here. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. So yes, my name is Angeline Berryman. I am a senior at Oregon State. So I have a little bit of experience with school. I'm an online student, so I do their eCampus program. I'm a psychology major and a HGFS minor, which is human development and family sciences. And other than being a student, I also work at a OCD and anxiety related disorder clinic in the area, and I'm a behavior specialist there. So
So that's a
lots of
lot.
stuff
You've got
going
a
on.
lot going on. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I apologize. I'm outside in Phoenix by the airport, so I might go on mute here and there.
it's like,
Well, yes, you have a lot going on if you think about school, work, social
yeah,
life, everything else
yeah,
that you're doing. And so, why don't we start with the two typical questions I ask on this session? The first is there a time waster out there that just drives you crazy that you address?
definitely. Mine's going to be a little sillier than your past responses that you've had from people. I know they've been like meetings and things like that, but I'm not necessarily in the business world. So for me, as a student, it is surprisingly TikTok. For some people, that might be Instagram or Facebook Reels. Those are also addicting. But I would say social media as a whole, I love it, but I hate it. It's kind of a hate love relationship there. I have fun with it in small amounts, but especially as someone with ADHD, have a hard time with that. So I just doom scroll for hours, and 2 hours will go by when I have a paper due, and it's awful. I won't even realize it. I'll be spaced out. So one way that I address that, and that's kind of also my time saving tip at the same time, is that I have app limits on my phone, which I know is annoying, but it really does help. I have zero self control with those kinds of things sometimes. I do in some areas, but TikTok is hard. So I have app limits, and I try to be very self disciplined with those. So if it says your time is up, I hit OK. I don't hit ignore limit. Um, Except right now I have it set to 1 minute because I really I can't. But sometimes I do like anywhere from 1 to 15 minutes, and then I enjoy it for a little bit, and then I get out of it, and that's what I get for the day. And I do enjoy that, like at night or anything like that. But yeah, that's what
Well,
helps me. I
that's
would
actually
recommend.
a time saving tip that everybody can learn because
Yeah.
while we do think about TikTok and Instagram being with the younger generation, there's a lot of adults that get caught up in scrolling Facebook or
Hmm.
Instagram, and because it is, we all want to be in the know, But what you're doing there with the moderation, as opposed to doing a full digital detox, which is just get away from all your devices, you're doing it in a very smart way because you're still able to enjoy the
Hmm.
process of social media and connecting with your friends and feeling
Yeah.
that social connection, which is also important. But you're moderating it in a way that allows you to focus on your other priorities. So that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's one way that I've started to have a little bit of balance without the extremities, finding somewhere in the middle to enjoy it. Because I used to just delete the app.
Yeah.
And that would only last so long, and then I would get re-addicted. It was just a cycle. So yeah, that's what
What
works
do you
for
do?
me.
What do you do with notifications? Do you mute
I have
notifications or
off.
you have
Hmm.
them off? Yeah.
So my friends will send me TikToks and things like that. That's usually my 1 minute is spent looking through my messages from my friends. And those are usually funny, it's fulfilling, and then I get out of it. Because when I would
Yeah.
delete it, I wouldn't see any TikToks from friends for like months at a time. So that was
Right.
too bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It does
yeah,
scroll up quickly.
notifications off.
I think that's very intelligent, and the way that you approach it with moderation, I think, is right because you said something in there. They're funny, so they help you with
Hmm.
your
Yeah.
mindset as well. So it's a good connection point. So that's
Yeah.
fantastic. So you've got we talked earlier about you've got a lot going on. You've got school, which has its own demands, and you have priorities associated with certain classes, certain deadlines, things like that. Then you have work, which
Hmm.
you have different demands that require there, and of course, being the age you are, being socially available to
Hmm.
interact and enjoy your friends is another thing. So, give us a take on how you balance all that.
Actually, I have a lot for this. I was thinking about it, and I have a few different ways that without being because it's so easy to be like, just do this and you'll be fine, but it really is hard to do it all. And I think everyone's different. There's different aspects that might affect someone. Me personally, I have to work with my ADHD and find ways that work for me to focus in small bits of time. So it's hard to work out, have good grades, sleep well, eat well. There's a million things. Work enough to pay the bills, do all your schoolwork, and have perfect grades. Like, that's unrealistic to always have all those things completely checked off. It's ideal, but for me, I found that it's this never-ending cycle that just usually leads to me being disappointed with myself. So to not get burnt out with all those things, what I find is really helpful, and we do this at my work a lot, actually, a lot of value-based work. I know you mentioned it in a previous episode, your hierarchy of values that you look at, and I really liked that. It works for me too, and I'm happy to hear more about yours, but I think about what I value, like what fulfills me, and I kind of rank those. So I'm ranking my habits and tasks that I need to do, kind of based on my values, of course, with some consideration in there's things that have to get done. So those will usually also be prioritized. But I do think life is too short to just 24/7 work and not incorporate those other areas of life. And so finding a way to balance that is hard.
Yeah.
But I value school, so that's going to be a high priority. That's
Yep.
based
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you're right. The hierarchy of values is an interesting thing. So you asked me about mine. I probably won't tell you
Yeah.
specifically what's on them, but
No, that's fair.
what I try to do is I have five, and they're balanced between my family and what I want to do with my family, what I want to do with work, and then myself, which is, like you said, mind and body kind of care and self-care, that kind of thing. So if you have that balance, got that well-rounded thing. You don't have to tell us your hierarchy of values, but is that what you look at? Is when you look at the time you have, how are you going to prioritize?
Yeah. And that's another technique too. I'll talk a little bit about my planner, but one way that I really like is, like, for example, for midterms and finals, I have to prioritize school that week. So let's say social time and things like that are going to have to get put on the back burner that week, because I know in the end, if I don't do well on those things and I don't prioritize them, it will lead to a little bit of disappointment. And of course, there's giving yourself grace, but I know that that's important to me. So everything else is put on the back burner. Then the next week, I prioritize school more or socials more and work a little bit more to make up for working less and things like that, so that I have that to look forward to and it kind of balances out. But some weeks I need more, let's say, self-care or hanging out with friends or things like that, just to prioritize my mental health. And that's really important to me. I think sometimes that even gets prioritized over school if I'm having a really rough week. Sometimes it is, to me, more important sometimes than getting a 100. Maybe I would get a 95 instead on an assignment, things like that. So that's kind of how I look at each week. But I do that with a planner. I can kind of explain that a little bit. But I generally on Mondays, because Sundays are when most of my assignments are due, so generally Mondays I sit down with it, and it has the whole week. And to me, working out is really prioritized for me just because it helps me focus. So I do that in the mornings, and I write that out. I write down the days I'm working. And then based on how much time I have around when I'm working, I look at all my assignments that I have due for the week, and I put what exactly assignment I'm doing each day. I used to struggle with this because it's hard to know exactly what you're going to want to work on that day. But I do find that it's really helpful once you kind of get a grasp of how long an assignment is going to take you. I tend to have similar assignments each week, just in different areas. And I can kind of judge how much time that's going to take me. And it's nice to look at and see, oh, I only have to do 4 things today. Let's knock them out. And then ideally I would have either my evening and being gracious with not having to do too much homework after work, things like that. So that's really helpful for me, just writing out for every single day what assignment I'm working on, because they're due on Sundays, so you have to space it out. Or if not, I would be overwhelmed every single Sunday. So that helps me. I would recommend it.
Well, no, and you didn't say it in the words that I used in the book for Time Bandit, but you just described the methodology very clearly, because you've got your things that you have to do first, and those are things that are important and urgent. And you've got things that you can schedule for later, and be aware of the schedule and schedule them accordingly. And then you also have things you might delegate out, right? So you might delegate that out in different ways for that. But you described it wonderfully, and whatever planner you use, that's great to hear that you've got that system down. And the more you do it, the more you get an estimate of time it's going to take for certain things, so you don't end up looking at your day and going, oh, I don't have time to get to that one, because you'll start naturally feeling the time strains on what you're doing, or how much time you need to dedicate to certain things, including what I love you said, is that self-care and the working out helps you you clear your mind, you said, and
Mhm.
that people sometimes forget they make that last priority, but if they
Yeah,
just
I
upped
used
it in
to,
their priority, yeah,
but
it'll
now
make them
it's
feel better.
very important to me.
It,
Yeah.
it also makes you more productive. When you've got
Mhm.
energy, you can tackle those next four
Yeah.
things you have to do. Yeah.
And it's
Well,
like I
that's
would spend
fantastic.
an hour on social media if I wasn't going to the gym generally. So that hour is still going to be used probably somehow. So I try to just first thing in the morning without even thinking about it going, except on the days that I'm working. But that is
Yeah.
something that I would, once you get into the routine of it, it's hard to come out of that. So just
Yeah.
to that.
Your insights are great, Angeline, and we're just about, well, I guess we're 1 minute over our 10-minute thing, which is my commitment to the viewers. I
Yeah.
really appreciate you sharing with us because it's important for all, and there's students out there that we know struggle with. I think mental health, and there goes a plane right now. The mental health in university students and even high school students is just overwhelming right now. And so
Yeah.
you sharing and being able to share and showing that you've got a system and you've forethought into it. The social media tips I think were great. So thank you so much for sharing with us all.
Sure. Yeah.
And if somebody is interested in asking Angeline a question, you can go to either whatever medium you are, if you're in Facebook or LinkedIn, please ask the question, and either I or Angeline will answer your question directly in those forums. But really appreciate it. The other thing I would recommend, if you want to learn more about this, or if you have a student that is stressed out, you can go to Amazon, Barnes and Noble online, any of these online bookstores, and buy Time Bandit and give it as a gift to your student. It's a quick read. It only takes about 90 minutes to read it, and it just might give them some tips, and then you can send them to this video and watch Angeline talk about how she's handling it. Thank you so much, Angeline. I hope you have a
Of
wonderful
course.
Thursday.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Hope you have a
Thank
good
you.
week.
All right, take care. Bye.